Hey guys, welcome to today's video. It's going to be a little bit different today. I actually have someone coming to professionally paint correct and wet sand and etc. polish all the cars here in the shop. We're going to be getting a stage 2, I believe, on the Mustang, stage 2 here, and we're putting a coating on this car, and then this one is getting a full paint correct too as well. All of them are getting a paint correct, and then this one's getting coating, that one's not getting a coating yet. But this one's not either, but it's gonna get all corrected and everything because we still need to paint a few things. We have a few parts coming for the bumpers and such, so get a coating on it once it's all done so that it protects everything and everything ties in nicely with the car. We're going to film his process on his stages that he does with the paint correction and everything else, and just know that there's so much more to it than detailing. Everybody thinks that just detailing is detailing, but there's actually so much more to learn about, you know, measuring the clear coat, making sure that you're not going to burn through the clear, making sure that you got enough paint to work with, what type of paint you're working with, and everything else. Either way, there's so much more to it than just cleaning the car. I definitely value the people who know what they're doing with this sort of stuff and wet sanding and stuff like that, because it's something that I'm not comfortable with doing myself, so I don't want to wreck my nice paint job on one of my cars and then all of a sudden you have to get a whole new panel painted. And let's just be real and honest here, that whenever you get something painted on a car, it never ever looks the same as factory. Obviously, due to the age of the paint and everything else, you put new paint on, unless they blend it like really good, but it's never the same. Stick along with the process here with the cars that are going to be done. It's pretty interesting stuff, and we'll try and see if we can work with Chris and see what we can make out of this video.
And then there's a few swirl marks left from the
you can see the haziness too,
because that's from they're using a rotary polisher.
Right.
They probably don't have a DA polisher. You can finish with the rotary, but it's better to finish with DA because DA finish is perfect, right? So that's what we're going to do. We'll get rid of all that stuff there.
So these are the lights that Chris, I was telling you about earlier, that Chris had set up here. As you can see, they're extremely bright and they can bring out all the imperfections in the paint. And you can have different settings on them. They can show you everything, simulate sunlight, simulate stuff that's even brighter than sunlight. You can bring out all the scratches and imperfections in the paint. You can see everything that needs to be corrected. As he was explaining there, he found some areas on the hood that he's going to adjust. He has covered everything up with the plastic here, as sometimes wet sanding can get a little messy, so he's being preventative and helping himself out so he doesn't have to clean up more stuff later.
We'll start with some 1500.
Okay.
I don't want to be too aggressive on it, and I'm going to start with a harder palm block. I'm going to start with the foot. So this is, when I say hard, like the foam is very hard, right? Compared to this is soft, so this is gonna,
gotcha. Yep.
This a soft one is going to more glide over the orange peel more. The texture will stay there more. With a hard block, the texture is going to be knocked down more. But I wanted to get that self-leveling coating off there, so I sanded it with 1500. But I used a soft block like this, so that I was mostly just attacking that Restore FX, and I wasn't really affecting the orange peel texture too much of the level of the paint underneath of that. You don't really want the paper to hang over the edge of that because sometimes these can scratch and give you gouges.
Right.
So even though this is 1500, that paper there, if it gouges on the end, digs in, it could be like an 800 sand mark. Even if the paper's like, doesn't matter to me, a little bit of the block showing, then it's not going to...
you don't have the issue. It's always leveled out.
And I always keep them in water to keep them soft, right? This, you can just keep moving it over and just holding it, right? You want the paper and the block to do the work. Watch what I'm holding here. So I'm going to, a little bit of water. It's called wet sanding, not water sanding, so we don't want a lot of, right? So there's where the defect was. I'm going to use this. I'm going to push it. I'm letting the paper, right? You can hear it, right? And then we'll wipe that off. Just have a look here. See? There's where the defect was. Just tiny there now. We're going to take a little bit of 3000 now. These are Trizac discs. They're made for wet sanding because they're foam and they hold the water. And again, not too much water. It's called wet sanding, not water sanding. This is 5000. There's a piece of 8 on here. I'm not going to start with that 8. So what we want to do with this is keep your hand flat. Let the paper do the work. If you've got your fingers apart, sometimes you can make finger marks. Do the work blocking the paper. Right? So that's been refined with 3000. I don't think I'd take it any more than that there, just to be safe. It's 5000. Again, we're just using a little bit of water, hand together, We find a little bit more. Right? You need to go back and usually I go back and forth over an area like that 4 to 6 times. Right? Back and forth to make sure I've got everything. Right now we're just doing this spot just to show you. Now we're going to buff that spot out and you'll be able to see what the difference is. The battery lasts about 20 minutes, but I always have 4 on charge. And I use the 5-inch, so smaller footprint, more muscle. All the power going into a smaller footprint 5-inch instead of having a great big full pad. I get a little more stronger, right? Lots of power, smaller footprint. There's more energy directed towards the paint. It's got the foam, so it's a little more forgiving.
Right.
But with this one, since we're not going too crazy polishing, we don't need to get too aggressive on it. This is a brand new product that I just got from 3D. They just started coming out with it. It's called 510. It'll cut 1,000 sandpaper marks, right? We've refined that up to 5,000, so this will cut through that very easily. Low and slow, just like anything. Cooking ribs, doing drywall, prep is key. Low, slow. It works, the product will work better. You're not going to make as much of a mess. You can work it more. Guys, when this is turned up to like, 3,000 or something, it's crazy. It's too fast, right? I'm going to turn it down to about 4 here because we're already done the major cutting with the rotary. What this is going to do is get rid of the swirl marks from the rotary. And if I did happen to see a couple extra straggler straight lines from the sandpaper, I could get them out with this. Again, you want to start with this on the paint. You don't want to start it off because
it'll fling it, yeah, because it goes warp speed. Yeah.
So what's happening here is the distinction of image obviously is great, much greater than it was before. We've got rid of the swirl marks from the rotary, right? Yep. And now the true, that depth
absolutely, for sure. And even me going to this side over here to the hood, you can see all the trash and it's hazy and everything else. You come over here, it's like a mirror finish.
Yeah, so this is we're still at a cutting mode because we've got a cutting pad and a cutting compound on here, right? Then I'll turn it up to about, usually this one I'll use 12 blast. And I'm just letting the buffer do its thing here now. I'm trying to keep it nice and level. I use the medium pressure here, right? I'm trying to keep it nice and so it's the paint gauge. So this measures from the substrate up. So it can't tell you the difference in like the primer, the base, the clear. We can't differentiate how much is there. We kind of have to guesstimate about that, right? But so this is going to measure the thickness of everything from the substrate up, right? So we're going to go right here where this dieback is, where they never sanded it all, and we're going to measure it first. And this is in mils. 8.65 mils. 8.65 mils. And and there's 9 right there at the edge because there's a little bit more. Maybe they buffed over with the buffer there and took a little bit off. If you want to talk microns, 25.4 microns is a mil, right? So anyway, we got 9 right at the edge. We got 8 in the middle. We got 8, 9, it's like close to 9, all right here where they didn't do it all. And you can see, I don't know if you want to take a look at that guy back there.
See that big ledge there, guys? There you go. And then look at all this, like texture and dieback that he was talking about earlier. as you guys can see, I'm going to show you in about a second here. The boys just actually finished up with these two cars here, the Mustang and the 350. These guys did an amazing job. They really knew what they were talking about, as you can see there when I was asking him about. He was explaining the wet sanding procedure, the water sanding procedure, and the cut down and everything else. As you guys can see, there's way more to it than just detailing a car or cleaning a car or vacuuming a car for all that matter. The amount of depth and clarity that they got out of these cars is stuff that I would have never thought that the paint actually would have showed. As you can see here, the reflection on this paint, like I said, this paint was always really good, but there's not a single swirl or scratch on this paint anymore here. And they put a nice coating on it, and the coating, it feels better than glass. It's super smooth, super slippery. It definitely makes the paint pop big time with this color here. I can hardly wait to get this out in the sunlight, but as you guys can see there, the amount of depth into this paint and the amount of metallics that pop now with the lights there. Tomorrow they're actually going to come and do the G35. It needs a bit more work than these cars did because it's been sitting outside. Like, they're going to take care of some of these sap marks in the hood and stuff like that, and try and match a few more things with this and get this thing taken care of. This one's going to take a bit more time, but they're going to come and do that tomorrow. As for that, guys, that's going to be it for today's video. Stay tuned, subscribe, hit that like button. See you guys later.